Hi, my name is Greg Campbell with Fortus Pilates. Today I'm going to show you how to add the tower to the Maple Elite Studio Reformer. So I've already got a fully assembled Maple Elite Studio Reformer here, and I've got my parts ready to add on the tower. And the first thing I'll need to do is install the tower mount brackets. So there are two brackets that go on either side of the rear of the reformer, and those are the brackets that the tower itself will actually come to rest in. So these are the brackets here. I need to attach one per side, and what you'll see is on the reformer there are four holes drilled. The outside two holes are pre-threaded, and the inside two holes just go straight through the rear of the frame, and they're not pre-threaded. So when it comes to positioning the bracket, when you look at the bracket, you'll see that it's not symmetrical. There is a side that has two screws showing, or two bolts showing, and there's a side that has a single bolt showing. The side with the two bolts showing is the side that is going to face the bottom, because this rearmost bolt, if you look at it, this is actually a bolt that goes all the way through this bracket, and that's what the tower, when you take the tower and you insert it into the bracket, it's what's going to hold it in place, keep it from basically falling straight through the bracket. So that needs to be at the bottom. So essentially what we do is we have a bunch of parts that you've been given in order to attach this bracket. For each bracket, you're going to use two of the shorter bolts. Those are 2.5 centimeters in length, and two washers. And then for the longer bolts that'll go on the inside, you're going to use the long bolts, which are 4.5 centimeters, two washers, and a nut. And so to mount this bracket, all I'm going to do, I'll start by doing the outside one. So I've grabbed a short bolt. I'll put a washer on the bolt. I'll take my bracket and I'll line it up with the holes, and I'll insert the short bolt into that first outside hole, the top one, and I'll just start tightening that by hand. Okay, once I've got that hand snug, the bracket will stay there. I'll grab another short bolt, I'll grab another washer, and I'll do the same thing on the outside bottom hole. I'll put the bolt in the hole, I'll tighten it up to hand tightness. There we go. So I've got the two outsides hand tight. Now I'll do the two inside bolts. Those are the longer bolts. So I'll grab a longer bolt. These are 4.5 centimeters long. I'll take the long bolt. I'll take a washer. I'll put the washer on the long bolt, and I'll put the long bolt through the top hole. This bolt is now actually protruding. You can't see it, but it's actually protruding out the rear of the frame. I'll do the same thing with another long bolt. Put a washer on it, and I'll stick it through. And then to secure the longer bolts, since they're just sticking out the back of the frame, I'll take a nut and I'll take another washer. I'll put the washer on first, and then I'll put the nut on. And again, I'll just hand tighten that nut just to finger tight for now. And I'll do the same thing on the bottom one. I've got a washer and a nut. I'll put the washer on, and then I'll take the nut and I will hand tighten that. So everything is hand tight now. I just need to tighten it up. For that, you've been given two tools. You've been given an Allen key that'll fit these bolts, and you've been given a wrench, which we'll need to use to secure the washer as we tighten. So for the outside ones, I actually don't need the wrench. I can just use the Allen key, and I'll just tighten those up. I don't need it to be over tight, but I do want it to be good and snug. A little bit more on that one. There we go. So those are both snugged up. Now I'll do the longer bolts. So I'll use the wrench, and what I'll do is I'll put the wrench on the nut at the rear to keep it from moving, and then I can tighten with the Allen key. I can tighten the bolt, and again I want it sort of nice and snug. Don't need to kill it, but nice and snug. And then the same thing with the bottom one. I'll put the wrench on there, and we'll just snug that up. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got this bracket fully mounted. It's nice and secure on the reformer. And I just need to repeat that process on the other side. So the other side of the frame has the exact same situation happening in terms of the holes and where they're drilled. So I grab a bracket, I'll take my short bolt, I'll put a washer on it. I'll make sure that the side with the two bolts is facing the bottom. I'll line up the holes here, and I'll just put this first short bolt in and just hand tighten it. There we go. And we'll do the same thing for the bottom on the outside. Take a short bolt, put the washer on, and we'll just hand tighten it. Okay, now we can repeat that process with the longer bolts as well. So I'll put a washer on the longer bolt. Those go through the inside holes. There we go. And same thing on the bottom. Put a washer on my long bolt through the inside hole. And now, just like I did on the other side, I grab a washer, I grab the nut, and the washer goes on first, then the nut. I'll tighten those up, just hand tight. And same thing for the bottom one. Put the washer on, put the nut on, and then I can hand tighten those. Okay, so now all that's left to do is to snug up all of the bolts. So for the outside ones, again, don't need the wrench. I can just get those nice and snug. Top one, there's the bottom one. And then for the inside ones, for those ones, I'll use the wrench. I'll secure the nut. And I can then snug up those bolts. And I'll do the bottom one. It needs a bit more. There we go. Okay, so now I've got both of my brackets attached to the frame, and I'm ready to actually put the tower into the brackets. So now that I've got the tower mount brackets secured to the frame, the next step is to actually place the tower into these brackets. So I'm going to grab this tower, I'll drop it in. In terms of which way is the front and which way is the back, it's really a matter of personal preference. There is a slight difference between the eye hooks on either side. So you can kind of put it in the way that you prefer. But essentially all you do is you line up the poles on either side with the slot in the mounting bracket, and you let the tower work its way down until it connects with that bolt that we talked about that's at the bottom. So now this tower is fully supported, and really all that remains in terms of securing the tower, there's these two bolts on each side on the mounting bracket. These are what, when you tighten them, they're going to pinch against the tower frame itself, and they're what's actually going to secure that tower frame and make sure that it doesn't move around when you're doing your exercises. So you definitely always want to make sure that you have these nuts secure. You just use your Allen key and you tighten them up, and you want them nice and snug. You don't need to go crazy, but nice and snug. And I'll do the same thing with the bottom. It's nice and snug. And I'll go to the other side of the tower and I'll repeat that process, just snugging up those bolts. That's good. And that's good. So now we've got our tower. It's nice and solid. It's fully attached to the reformer, and it's ready to start being used.